Welcome to Astoria Film Festival Presents, our weekly half-hour program featuring our films, filmmakers, events, and the local community.
Today we're speaking with Makeba Ross, who won our Grand Jury Prize at the 2019 festival for her amazing drama short, Counterveil.
And Melissa Jean-Baptiste, who won Best Drama Web Series in our 2019 festival with Milllenial in Debt.
Thank you, Makeba.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I love doing anything Astoria related.
Yay. Well, we love you very much.
Likewise.
So, do you want to talk a little about Counterveil and kind of what motivated you to create it? And
Absolutely, yes. Counterveil, it was really just a challenge for me. I wasn't very happy with how the two films prior to that turned out. So I wanted to just try it again. And this was just a challenge to see if I could finish a film and actually like what I make, if I can make a film that I like. That was the only true goal I had in making this film.
But you were a Brooklyn College film student, and it was your senior thesis, right? Is that true?
No, it's funny. My thesis film actually was my very first heartbreak in life. It just did not turn out the way I wanted it or imagined it at all. It was a true learning experience. And then, so that summer though that I graduated, I tried to make a film to get over that one. And that one didn't turn out too well either. So Counterveil, I tried the year after that, just to try and have a film, make one that I like, and just be proud of it. So that was the one goal for Counterveil, to just make a film that I was proud of. And
but I want to add that I think I'd love to see the two films you think were horrible, because knowing you, I'm sure they were beautiful, and you're just really hard on yourself.
You know what it is? In Brooklyn College, in the film department, the way you graduate the department is you make a thesis film. And the idea is that at the end, once you have your thesis, you can either submit it to the school festival, where you have it at the screening at BAM, and everyone comes out, and there's they put on a big deal, they make a big deal about it. Or you could decide, you know what, no, I'm just going to submit it to the committee so I can get graded and just get my degree and go on with my life, okay? Most filmmakers in the department choose the first. They want to see their stuff on screen. They're convinced it's the best thing ever, and they're very excited about it. I was one of those people, man. I knew that my film wasn't like all the others that I was seeing, but I still felt like it was good, And then the way they actually schedule the film festival in categories. So there's 4 categories. There's the 10 a.m. slot, and then there's I believe it's 1 p.m. slot. There's the 4 p.m. slot, and there's the 7 p.m. slot. Basically, the earlier the slot, the worse the films. And so all of the best films are saved for the 7 p.m. because it's at night, and that's when the teachers show up, and that's when all the families show up, and so the best films are saved for the 7 p.m. slot. So literally the goal throughout the whole class is just I need to get to the 7 p.m. slot. That is the goal for everybody.
I think it's similar for most festivals. Yeah.
And there's all this anticipation waiting to get that email from the department, finding out when your film is scheduled, and then bam, my film was smack dab first 10 a.m. round. And that immediately translated to me wow, I made one of the worst films in the school. That's what it translated to me. Just immediately. You really do have to make films for yourself and for the people in your circle, in your community, in your life. You really just gotta make it for you and do it how you want to do it.
Absolutely agree. I think you have to go all out. The more unique it is, the more I think it reaches the audience it's supposed to reach.
Exactly. It reaches the audience it's supposed to reach. I agree. Yes, that's a good way to put it. I'm okay with that. And as long as that's why I always just make films for me, because I need to at least like it. If no one else likes this film, I need to at least like it. So I really do try and make them for me.
And also representation is so important, you know, like,
Exactly.
so you want young Black women to see you as as the person behind this creation, so that they might be able to be in a, you know, do a similar role. You want, you know what I mean? Like, representation is so critical.
It's so critical. And I thought, it dawned on me a couple years ago, I was saying like, damn, I wonder how much sooner I would have picked up film if I just saw someone who looked like me doing it, you know? Because when I was like really young, my dream was to be an actress, and I wanted to do like spy movies because I loved James Bond. Like I loved all the James Bond movies from all the decades. And I would always say like, but you know, Black girls don't do spy movies, so I can't do that. I really thought I couldn't do a spy movie when I was younger, just because I never saw like a Black girl be a spy on TV. Speaking of representation, I really I was watching I went down the rabbit hole of interviews with Michaela Cole. She's the creator of Chewing Gum, and in her interview, she was talking about how representation was like the #1 priority with her show Chewing Gum. And because the show Chewing Gum is just about like a girl in like a housing project of London, just trying to like figure out her sexuality, you know, that's all it is. And the way she portrays like the housing projects in her show is just vibrant colors, patterns everywhere, like very vibrant people, very colorful people. And she said like it was very important to me not to show like violence and like shooting and death, because that wasn't my experience. Like in fact, it's actually very boring growing up in here, you know. And you know, it, like the media is so powerful that it really just sends this narrative out into the world that, you know, this is what this is what the lives are of these people. And she's like, actually no, it was very boring, you know, nothing really happened here at all, and I kind of always felt safe no matter what, you know. So yeah. I thought that was very interesting and very powerful. I was like, wow, she just refused to represent it negatively, because in her experience it was not a negative experience for her.
But also how important that is, you know, for kids growing up in project housing. Like I grew up next to project housing, and I currently now live back where I grew up. So I had friends who lived in the projects, and you know, I would sleep over when we were at that age where everybody wanted to sleep over at friends' houses. And I have people, you know, now who live in the neighborhood who are afraid to go there, and I'm like, it's
what do
there's nothing wrong. Like,
I know,
just people. They're people.
I know.
You know, not where the job isn't paying as much as it needs to pay for them to live, but they're still people.
When I first moved to Brooklyn College, I lived right a couple blocks from the college, and when people found out I lived in Flowers, they're like, really? What's that like? I'm like, it's actually really great. It's hustle bustle. There's plenty of food, plenty of restaurants and stores and grocery stores. I really like downtown Flatbush, the Junction area. And even when I was telling people I was moving to Bed-Stuy, they're saying, oh my God, off the sea line? How do you feel there? Do you feel safe? I was just like, it's just a neighborhood. I've never really been afraid of areas that are seen as like impoverished and like dangerous, because in my experience they're like not dangerous to me. I've never felt unsafe in an impoverished area, you know. Yeah,
likewise.
Never felt like that.
I mean, it's literally my home. So
yeah,
I mean, it's literally what I consider home as a kid, and now like, so I don't get the hysteria around it, other than I understand that people have been brainwashed and the media has done some horrible representation of it,
which is why representation is so critical. We need it.
Yes,
I'm here for that. If nothing else, that's fine.
It's so needed. And it's funny because you were saying, you know, you just wanted to make a film that you liked, but when I've been doing these interviews and I've spoken to other filmmakers who were at the festival and saw your film, and everybody's comment was, I was afraid to talk to her because her film was so outstanding that I was like, she's gonna think we're nothing compared to her. And then
What?
you meet you and you're like, oh, it's the only film I've ever made that I actually didn't throw up making. And
Yeah,
you're like, what are you talking about? It was
I'm
brilliant.
serious.
It was brilliant.
Thank you so, and that's really just like things like that really just inspire me to just go for things, because throughout when at least I have these thoughts at least 20 times when I'm editing a film, like maybe I should just scrap this film, or like maybe I just shouldn't even put this out. This isn't like how I thought it was going to be. But you have to just finish things, because even if it doesn't turn out how you want, at least you have some sort of just resolution to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you have going on now in the work? Well, everybody's on hold, but what's currently being worked on hold?
Currently, I have my short film, The Big Chop, on hold. I'm now in a space where I'm okay with it being on hold. It's postponed 1 full year to the summer of 2021. Hopefully, the world can get its act together and we can be safe enough to do that next year. Hopefully. But that itself has been a process, just like coming to terms with not being able to shoot it right now, because in my head I was working like very, very hard with a certain date in mind, like I was giving this truly my all, like I always do, with like the first weekend of June just imprinted in my brain. Like for months, that's the only date that mattered to me. And then by March, right when COVID hit, I was starting to get overwhelmed, and I started having my second thoughts. I was like, can I do this? Can I make this film? Am I gonna make this in time? I have like 3 months left. I don't know if I can do this. And then boom, all of a sudden I can't do it. Like I cannot make this film anymore. And I didn't even know how to feel. Like on one end I was relieved, and another end I was mad at myself for being relieved. Like I didn't know what to feel. I felt so many things. But now I'm in a place where like I've taken a second, I've reassessed how I want to do the film now, and I just realized that I can take it either two ways. I can see it as like the COVID as, what's the point of like trying to do anything if things like this are going to happen, or I could take it as, yes, I still really want to do this film, and apparently I want to do it so bad that I'm going to like wait till this is over to do it, and I'm going to try twice as hard. I have twice as much time, and
Right.
It's going to be twice as good now because of that. So
there's all like, you don't usually get to spend much time in pre-production on a short, because you don't have the budget, right? So
pre-production is very
luxurious.
Yes, pre-production is luxurious.
Yes. Do you any promotion? Like, what's your Instagram handle? Where should people find you?
My personal Instagram account is at room number _237. That is an ode to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I rewatched that multiple times in quarantine, so that has inspired my @ being changed. And if you want to follow me on the IG page for The Big Chop, my next film, that is at The Big Chop _film. And hopefully you like what we have on there.
All right, so Melissa Jean-Baptiste, otherwise known as Millennial in Debt. How did the whole Millennial in Debt thing get started?
Well, I was in debt.
You were in debt.
Yeah, so I'm a first generation person. So for anyone who watches and doesn't know what that means exactly, it means my parents were born in Haiti. And then when they came over here, my brothers and myself were the first to really navigate school and getting jobs and applying for financial aid and things like that. And I'm the oldest.
Same, by the way.
Yeah, so it's
not Haiti, but
yeah, it's just like there's always a little bit of pressure, and you want to make sure you make everyone proud because you're the first up doing it. And
also you're completely clueless, and you really don't know what you're doing until after, and then you're like, oh, right, that.
Yeah, and it's just so I was the first to go up to college, and I took on a lot of student debt, and then the first 3.5 years after I graduated, I was kind of just like, okay, I have this debt. just going to pay the minimum, see what happens. And then when I was 25, I tried to move out of my parents' house. I was looking at like getting a mortgage, and the retail like broker was just like, oh, well, you're only approved for like 100,000. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how? You know, like I have really good credit. I'm like, I pay all my bills. And he's just like, well, you have a really high debt to income ratio. And before he mentioned that, I'd never even heard of that before. I didn't know what that meant. And I just thought that if you had debt, you paid your payments, that you were fine. You were adulting. That's what was my understanding. And so when I started looking into debt to income ratio and what that meant, and I called Sally Mae, who was one of my providers, and they were like, oh, well, you have this balance left and it's going to take you 30 years to pay off the balance. And I'm just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I didn't even borrow this amount of money. So at this point, the principal, which what I borrowed, had gained so much interest that my payments didn't even really make a dent in that balance. And I was confused. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I'm like, I can't be paying this for 30 years. Like, I don't want to live in my parents' house for the next 30 years. So I started to like learn more about money, how to use it as a tool, how to save, how to pay this debt down more aggressively. And it was really lonely. I felt really alienated. And I'm like, no one that I graduated with is talking about this. I'm like, am I the only one who's going through this? And so I started to talk to a few more people about it. I started talking to my best friend, who Shakira, she was at the festival with me. And we just started talking, and then I started like writing down people's stories, like loose, just like, oh, I'm like, oh, this happened. And I'm like, it would be kind of cool if I just put everyone's stories together into like this like thing. I'm like, I don't know what it'll be, but I'm like, I just want to put everyone's stories together. And it was actually during Regents Week at school. And so I didn't have to proctor, I didn't have to teach, but I had to be in the building. So I went into a teacher's lounge, and I was like, I'm just gonna write. Like,
that's brilliant.
Right? I'm like, I'm gonna see what pops out. And so I'm like writing by hand, because I love writing things out first. And I'm writing and writing and writing. And then I'm like, I think I want to turn this into a script. And I had zero idea what that meant. I'm just like, what? So I went to the Filmmakers, and I was like, oh, like, how do you guys screenwrite? Like, what programs are you using? You know? And they were talking to me about that. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I wrote it up on Celtics, and it was just born that way. Like, I was like, you know, this is like kind of cool. I want to do something with it. And so my best friend was like, let's do a web series. Like, let's figure like how that is. And we just navigated that, and it kind of just grew from there. And it's so like exciting to see where it's growing, but that's where it came from, me being alone and like grabbing everyone's stories.
It's all about Regents Week.
Yeah, and Regents Week. I'm just like, I'm very thankful for that like time to just be in the teacher's lounge and write. So thank you.
So Millennial in Debt won Best Drama Web Series at our festival in 2019. And then you have this amazing, massive social media following where you give tons of advice to people. I've benefited from the advice. I'm sure everyone has benefited.
Thank you.
But also I felt like one of the things you tackled in the web series was mental health issues in the Black community, which I just see so few representation of, and it really struck me. So do you want to talk a little about what prompted you to kind of do that?
Yes. So the first season that we established like a following and just people knowing who we were, we focused mostly on student debt and money and things like that. And then with the second season, we really wanted to expand it further into how money can really affect a lot of other aspects of your life. And so my best friend, she actually wrote that episode because she does deal with a lot of mental health issues as well as myself, but I think is shied away from a lot, especially in the Black community. And she's just like, you know, I think we should do an episode specifically about this. We should tackle it head on and not like just like little snippets. Like, we should just tackle it straightforward. And I'm just like, okay. And I was very uncomfortable and scared, which is the best time to push through. You always push through your fear. And so I'm just like, I don't know, it's like so different from what we do. And we try to make everything so funny. And she's just like, Melissa, I'm telling you, she's like, people will like it, let's do it. And so I'm like, okay. And so she wrote it and we did it. And I think it's actually one of the best and most beautiful episodes that we have. And I think it's really important, especially with when Millennial in Debt started, that things aren't kept as, oh, this is only happening to you, or, oh, this is only your experience. And I think the more that we open up the platform and allow people to share their story and share their experiences and see other people dealing with the same things, I think it's really going to help veer away from the stigma of, oh, just say a prayer, or, oh, just be strong. And it's like, not really. That's not how it's gonna go. So I'm actually really happy that she pushed for that episode, and it's been one of our best, most well-received episodes. Something that I think was really crucial to the episode, it was to show how things appear so normal, right? It's like, oh, you have a job, you have a boyfriend, you have friends, everything is fine. And it's just like, that doesn't make up the bulk of, everything. That's not every single thing that I am. And so there's so many other things that so many other pieces to me. And so I don't have to appear like I'm crazy. It's always, oh, she's crazy. It's like, no, you can be living a perfectly, completely normal appearing life and still be dealing with so many issues that others don't know and aren't aware of. So I wanted to make sure that it was just giving off of, like, this is an everyday life, everyday occurrence. And so that, I'm really glad that came through.
So what, with Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
And you being a teacher, what have you been able to discuss with your students? What have how have they been able to discuss, and how have you been feeling about it? So kind of a big question, but.
Okay. So when the initial protests began, I felt that I didn't have the tools or the emotional wherewithal to kind of navigate my own feelings and navigate the feelings of my students, or provide them with the opportunity or platform to express how they're feeling or what they're going through or their thoughts. And so that first week was really difficult, and I kind of just shied away from having any open conversations with anyone, not friends, not family, not my social media following. I was just to myself and trying to wrap my brain around what's going on. And that following week, which ended up being our last online school week, like last digital classes, we were able to link in the Black Lives Matter movement and conversations with the two books that we just finished, Glass Castle and The Hate U Give. And I was really just so proud that they were able to take over the conversation, and I didn't even have to do much but be a facilitator, and they were able to navigate such adult conversations that at their age I would have never been able to do. And so I'm very thankful that they were able to do that. And I'm also thankful for my administration giving them as many opportunities as well to voice their thoughts and to help create programs for our upcoming school year. So I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen. Yeah, that was it. So every day I think is different, and it's heavily based off what's going on around in the world and what, progress we made and what progress we still need to make. And I think I've reached a point where I'm able to talk more openly, especially on my social media platform, which I'm not going to lie, I was really, even before all this, I was really always afraid to tackle anything with race because I didn't want to, I guess, offend, which is such a disgusting thought to have, like saying it out loud. So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm in the financial niche, and people say I'm a financial guru, so I can only talk about money, and that's what people follow me for. And then when all of this broke, I'm like, I'm a human, and they follow me because I'm a human, and I have to voice my human emotion, and I have to share how I'm feeling, outside of just money. And so I think that the audience has really been graceful and open and amazing to interact with the latest posts that I've been making, and I haven't had any negative comments, thankfully, and I'm hoping to keep it that way as I continue to try to educate people, yes, about money, but also about why this movement is so important and why we can't lose the momentum behind it. So every day is different, but I'm getting stronger and being able to keep using my voice. I think what COVID taught us is definitely that we need to lean on each other a little more, and then no one is perfect. And I think the fact that everyone was kind of crammed back at home and we're all doing like the Zooms and the Google Meets, and we're all like, oh, your kid is running around crazy, my kid is running, my dog is doing this. And it's like, wow, we're all living the same life right now. So I think that was really nice to at least come together as a digital family and kind of just watch people make bread. I'm a horrible cook. And so I've been loving watching everyone like excel at cooking. And I'm just like,
I cook okay, but my baking skills are not good. And I tried to make bread and it was like the hardest thing I've ever, there was this lump and I was like, my grandmother's crying right now.
Black Lives Matter conversations with our staff and the administration, a lot of teachers, especially in the history department, said once the regions were canceled for this year, they were actually able to teach a lot more and have more conversations, and the kids were more engaged because they weren't worried about, oh my God, I need to teach these 7 things for the regions. And
Yes.
so that's definitely a conversation I think that needs to that happen on a grander scale, at least for this school year. Do we really need the regions, you know, or like the AP exams? Because that would create a different type of teaching, I think. And it would allow for a lot more education on things that the kids really haven't been learning since they've been in school. So I don't know, the history teachers really had a lot of fun once they no longer had the regions. I struggle with a lot because I teach AP literature, because there's also AP Lang, which I get confused with all the time. And that's the 12th grade course. And I had such a difficult time this year because I hate boring. Like, I don't want to be the boring, just reading from the book and doing that. But we had a really hard test to prepare them for in May. And then when the test kind of got really watered down because of all the things going on, I was really thankful because that last 6 weeks of their senior year, I was able to do financial literacy with them. And I was able to do a whole bunch of other things because I was just like, meh, this test doesn't really matter right now. But
Right.
I don't know.
And like you said, you were 22 and didn't know what debt to income ratio is, right? And neither did I at that age. So like these things that are actually critical to life are not being taught.
So I don't know what it's going to be, but if the AP College Board people are like, no tests next year, I'm going to be thrilled. And I will have so much more fun with the curriculum. So let's see.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like hoping for that so badly.
And people can find you at?
At Millennial in Debt on Instagram, Millennial in Debt on YouTube, and on Twitter, Mill in Debt, because of the character limitations.
That is Twitter.
Yes, it's all right.